Hi, everybody. I'm going to do something different this week, and rather than responding to each one of you individually through the discussion board, I'm posting this video on in your private feedback area. So I did want to give each of you something from me this week, and so I decided to do something a little bit different. We're talking about inhalants and marijuana. Those are the two discussion topics, and I just read through your discussions, and I found a lot of it very interesting. And I think I'm going to talk a little bit from my own experience, not necessarily my own experience with drugs, but my experience working with people who use. And since I am a chemical dependency counselor, a substance abuse counselor, and I worked for a while at the AIDS Outreach Center as a substance abuse counselor, and I got to see a wide variety of different types of drug use. However, I have to say, I have very little experience with inhalants. I I know only as much as anybody probably out there in society. I I know when I was younger, people used to talk about sniffing glue. That was the first time I ever heard of any kind of inhalant use. And I do know that people used to put glue, like airplane glue, in a paper bag and breathe it in. I've seen things on television about how horrible the effects are of that and how literally it can fry somebody's brain. And I know that a lot of the glues and things they've changed the what's the glue's made of so that it's not toxic like that anymore. And I also know that there are certain types of glues and sprays and things like that, aerosol sprays that they keep locked up, or you have to be a certain age to buy. I know that they put some controls on those things, and that's a good thing. However, I also know that just like anything else, if somebody wants to get hold of something bad enough, they'll find a way. I guess there are a lot of reasons why somebody might use an inhalant. Number one, they want to get high, but also maybe it's less expensive than a street drug, more available, kind of, I guess. It depends, I guess, on where you're getting your stuff. But anyway, I don't know a lot, but I have seen videos like, a 2020 or something like that about like street kids who use use inhalants, and it's pretty sad. It's a sad thing to see them in that condition, and it's a sad thing they've shown. I've seen pictures, videos of when somebody's been using for a long time, and there's really not much left to them mentally, it seems. And man, I don't know about treating that. I know that they say that cognitive behavioral therapy is effective, and oh, somebody just tried to call me on my computer. That's weird. Anyway, so people have to want to get better. They have to perceive that there's a problem before they're going to get better. And I'll talk about that when we talk about marijuana too. I don't know how many people we'll actually see in our offices who actually use inhalants unless it's some court ordered thing. If somebody's in private practice, you may never see anybody who uses inhalants. I never have. Maybe if a parent sees their child using, then they might try to get them in for help. But again, while it's not just lower income people who use it, I would say probably the majority are. And so these are not people necessarily who have access to counseling. So I don't know. It'll be interesting. I'd be interested if anybody has. We can do this on updates on the discussion board if y'all want to talk about that, or post it in this discussion about your experience if you have any. I really don't have a lot personally. I did want to mention to you, somebody sent me an email the other day with a news thing that said that young girls are putting vodka in their tampons, and that it's an easier, faster way to get vodka in their system because because it goes into the mucus. I guess it's like snorting a drug instead of ingesting it. Wow. um, that was a new one. That was interesting. I had never heard of that before. Anyway, yeah. So again, people have to want to get better. They have to perceive that there's something wrong with what they're doing. And a lot of times the people, we see in our office for substance abuse, that's the way they grew up. That's what they know, and that they don't. A lot of times don't see that there's necessarily anything wrong, and to change their whole way that their values and things. It takes a long time, but it also takes willingness on their part to want to change or to see that they need to change. And that's one of the real big challenges in the work we do, especially when it's a court-ordered case and people are there because they have to be. But anyway, I don't want to give up on anybody. And if somebody comes to me for help, I want to do the best I can to give them the help that they're looking for. But they got, I can't work harder than they do. And so that's something we all have to keep in mind, because I find myself doing that sometimes, working harder than my clients. Okay, so talking about, somebody also mentioned in their post about the inhalants that there's there's some antisocial behavior, antisocial disorder symptoms in there too. And obviously, well, not obviously, but probably there are some home issues that this person is experiencing. That's usually the reason why people want to numb out or check out or whatever that happens when they use drugs. So marijuana, that's a big topic because we're trying to get that legalized. Not we, but some people are trying to get that legalized. A lot of people are trying to get it legalized. And there are some places in some states that sell medical marijuana for people who particularly have cancer or some illness that causes them a lot of pain, that medical marijuana seems to help. And I think from what I understand that a lot of medical marijuana, it's not necessarily smoked because we're not wanting to, help people not feel pain, but then cause them to have lung cancer or emphysema or something. So I think they have it in pill form. Marijuana, the THC, or the active ingredient, I guess, if you will, in marijuana. So, I mean, that's one reason why it is legal in some areas. But also, a lot of people are just trying to legalize it or decriminalize it. Well, it is decriminalized if you have just a small amount. I think in Texas I don't even know, but maybe an ounce or two. That at least it's a misdemeanor. Now, personally, and I'm not going to go into my own past. Just trust me, I grew up in the late 60s, early 70s, graduated from high school in 72. There was a lot of stuff going on. I won't say that I've never experimented with anything. But I will say that I tend to think that marijuana probably causes less problems in a lot of ways than alcohol, because I don't see a lot of people being in accidents or killing somebody because they're high on marijuana, where you see a lot of that when somebody's drinking. So I mean, there are a lot of things that marijuana doesn't cause, liver damage, things like that. I'm not here to talk about legalizing marijuana, but I think it might happen someday. It's illegal at this point, and it's a substance, so it doesn't matter whether it's as harmful as alcohol or anything else. We're talking about, as therapists, as counselors, how it's causing somebody's life to not work as well as they'd like for it to, or their family would like for it to. The problem again is a lot of people who smoke marijuana don't see a problem with it. And I've mentioned in some of my discussions with people, I recently saw a couple who the wife really, she called for couples counseling, and her main thing was her husband was smoking weed, not a lot, not even every day, but enough that it bothered her. It was causing a problem in their relationship. He didn't perceive a problem, and he refused to stop. And so it's almost like they stopped coming because I think it was just a deal breaker for them. It was an impasse, and he wasn't going to quit, and at the expense of losing his family. That's a problem. So regardless of whether marijuana is worse or better or anything, if it causes problems in somebody's life and in their relationships, then it's a problem. Getting them to recognize that and to be willing to do something is a little bit more challenging. And again, CBT is very good, very proved uh, behavior kind of modification thing, getting people to realize, recognize that the choices that they're making are not necessarily good choices for them. Somebody's calling me again. And REBT. I worked with a program, SMART, Self-Management and Recovery Training. They work with the REBT, Rational Emotive Behavioral Therapy, which is kind of like cognitive behavioral. Talk a little bit more about emotions and the whys, what is it that triggers the behavior and things like that. Those are really good and effective tools to use, along with couples counseling or marriage, family counseling too, to help the family deal with what's going on with the person who's using also, and to stop the shame and blame and things like that. It's not helpful. And but marijuana does cause paranoia, anxiety, depression. Now, I know marijuana can cause people to be paranoid, but I don't know. Depression. Are they depressed before they use? Or are they depressed because they use? Or probably both. Same thing about anxiety. A lot of people say they use because it helps them decrease their anxiety. It's true, but I think sometimes because they're paranoid, it can increase their anxiety. So those are some of the things that we'll see with people who present with marijuana use. The big thing about it being a gateway drug, that it leads to other things, I know that can be true. I know it's not always true. I know people who have smoked marijuana since the 60s and they continue to smoke, and that's all they do. Some of them don't drink alcohol. They just smoke weed. And so it can be, I do believe, and especially with young kids, it can be a gateway drug, but it's not always. But what I do also know that the people I've seen, especially young people, it does increase or decrease their motivation and causes them to be a little bit more, I think, low performing. They just maybe don't have as much drive. Everything's senses and everything are dulled a little bit, and so, or a lot, and so they don't really have a lot of motivation a lot of times. I'm talking really fast because I'm running out of time. I think I only have 15 minutes here. But I had a friend years ago. He's a musician, and he smoked. The only way he could perform, he thought, was to be high. And so he went to recovery because his family insisted, and went to treatment. I mean, not recovery. And he was in recovery, and then he was afraid he couldn't perform. He was afraid he couldn't sing, play his guitar, anything, or write music straight. And so he struggled with that for a long time, and I believe I lost touch with the guy, but I'm pretty sure he relapsed. And so it's been up and down. He does know, he's mature enough and reasonable enough to know that it's a problem, but he just can't stop. So that's hard. That's a hard one to deal with. Anyway, I'm running out of time. I hope that this is good. If you have any questions or comments or anything, feel free to post, ask your instructor, or put it in the discussion board or whatever. Y'all take care. If I don't talk to you, have a happy Thanksgiving. Bye.